Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Praise Yah. Welcome to our Torah study. We are going through Genesis chapter 9. Welcome back, everybody. Don't worry, it's being recorded. So if you missed some of the chapter 8, you can go back. I actually would love if everybody would go back, analyze, investigate, for the week. And if there's any questions pertaining to this, to come back during the Q&A and we could break it down. Now, just a little update. Next week when we are on 4LC page, not this page, the 4LC page, we will be having a Q&A, but at the end of our Eternal Fire study. Okay? So Lake of Fire study, that's what it is. We're going to have our Lake of Fire study, and we are going to dissect that. There's a few topics that I want to dissect before we go into possibly discussing not necessarily feast of dedication, but the idea of dedication scripturally. So definitely connecting to the feast of dedication, but more for us to understand what it's about. It's not just the story of feast of dedication. Is not just the story of the Maccabees. The Maccabees occurred during that time, not during that time, but before that time. But there was a reason why they did the feast of dedication, and it wasn't because Maccabean war, even though that occurred right before they did this. So I think a lot of people need some more insight on just a simple understanding of where it's from and what it's not. But anyway, welcome back, everybody. We are on Genesis chapter 9. Definitely wanted to start this over. Let's get into Genesis chapter 9. All right. Walk through this chapter together. Start from verse 1. So now we know that he removed the cover of the ark and built the altar on the first day of the first month, which is the new moon of Abib. Now we're on chapter 9. Let's see if what we could find here. Elohim blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast." Let me highlight that. Everything that move upon the face of the earth, it says, into your hand, they delivered. They are delivered into your hand, meaning that Noah has complete authority and power over every creature that exists. Does this look familiar, guys? If it looks familiar, put a 1 in the chat. If it looks familiar, say the name of the person that it reminds you of. It says here, every moving thing that live upon shall be food for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. This statement here is very important because this is the first time he's giving Noah something else to eat. Noah wasn't eating animals prior to this moment here, and he is giving him something specific. Now, I've heard somebody say every moving thing is including unclean animals, and we are going to see that it's not even talking about animals in this verse. But let's first touch on verse 1 and 2. Who did Yah give this covenant to first? Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, fowl of the air, everything that moves upon the earth, upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand they delivered. This takes us back to Genesis chapter 1, where it talks about what Yah tells Adam: be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful. Well, no, this is not it. Right here, he tells Adam to be fruitful and multiply, and then he tells Adam to replenish the earth and subdue it, meaning take control over it. And it says have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, over every living creature that moves upon the earth. This is the same thing he's telling Noah now in chapter 9, that he has full dominion. This is the Adam's covenant is being given to Noah in this brand new earth, brand new beginning for humanity. Same covenant he gave to Adam, same thing he's given to Noah. I hope we can see that. Now, as we move forward, we're going to see that this statement here, everything that moves shall be food for you. Let me ask you guys a question. What do you guys think this is referring to? What do you guys think this is referring to? All right, let me see this. Yes. Give me 1 second. I think something is happening to my stream. I'm not too sure. I can't see. Oh, okay. There we go. Wait. No, I can't see you guys in there. All right. Adam. Yes, that is correct. Yeah. Now, I mean, for sure, he's not giving no other animals, no other humans. Adam's. He's giving Adam this dominion. What kind of dominion? It is the rulership, the ownership. So dominion is referring to ownership. Many people think dominion means that you have to like tell somebody else what to do. That's not dominion. Dominion is referring to ownership, what you have, what you control. So I think this is very important for us to grasp as well. What do we control? What do we control? Um, but let me show you this, right? So I can't see you guys chat for some reason. So let me see if you guys could see my chat. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah. Let me see. All right, guys. I can see you guys now. It's giving me an issue. But anyway, let's see what this word here means, right? Every moving thing. What does that mean? Does that mean any clean animals? The word is referring to creeping things that swarm. Remember John the Baptist? What was John the Baptist eating? John the Baptist ate locusts and honey. Locusts and honey. So every clean bug is what he ate. Every clean bug that swarm or creep, that's what he ate. He didn't eat animals. We're going to see him incorporate animals in a second. All right, let me see if I could do it this way. I do see you guys in the chat now, but I'm doing it in some type of, in my own type of DIY type of way. All right, so let's continue to move, right? So it says here, every creeping thing, every clean creeping thing that will be your food, right? He never ate creeping things before because he didn't have the clean and unclean eating laws. They may have understood what was clean and unclean, but they didn't have a clean and unclean designated eating laws yet. So Yah is giving Noah, guess what? He's giving Noah eating laws right now. So he's telling him that the clean reptiles you can eat of. And he says, but flesh with life or flesh with blood in it, you shall not eat it, right? It says, you flesh with blood in it, you shall not eat it. This doesn't sound like he's saying, hey, let's continue to read this. Surely your blood of your lives will I require, at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Meaning, like, every time an animal kills a man, he's requiring that beast's life, and every man that kills a man, he's requiring that man's life. So it says, whosoever sheds man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of Elohim, he made him. For in the image of Elohim, he made him. And you, be ye fruitful, multiply, bring forth abundant in the earth, and multiply therein. Now, many people think that this is the moment he's telling him he could eat clean animals. Why would he tell him to eat clean animals? They have a limited supply. They have only 7 pairs of clean animals. This man is going to run out in less than 6 months if he's only eating animals. You see what I'm saying? But bugs, clean bugs, let's say locusts and of its kind, and the amount that's produced. Matter of fact, by this time, the dove did bring back a branch with the olive on it. Olive. Well, did it have an olive on it? Let's go back to see. Did the branch come back with an olive on it, or it was just an olive branch? Yeah. So it says here, in her mouth was a olive leaf. So that's even better, showing that the tree was there were trees ripening, or that was being, getting ready to bear fruit. So this was not a time in which there was nothing on the earth. This is a time in which the earth is completely dry. They have already it's the beginning of the year, meaning that it's about to harvest. The time that the dove went out, I need you guys to understand this, right? So the time that the dove went out was, look, on the 7th month of the previous year. So the dove went out in the fall, right? And then they came out in the spring. So think about that. If they saw leaves on the trees by the fall, by the spring where Moses is where Noah is uncovering the ark, etc. There's, to me, I believe there's absolutely fruit that's going to be available by that time. But he's telling him that he gets to also partake in certain bugs, not animals. All right. So there's nothing here telling you this is when he's telling man to eat animals. We don't see that here. If you guys don't see it, let me know, because maybe I'm looking at it at the wrong angle. But as I'm trying to dissect it, every moving thing does not mean animals. Moving thing means bugs. And then he says, but the flesh, the animals with the blood in it, you are not supposed to eat. And then he talks about the murdering of animals killing humans. If he requires animals killing humans and humans killing humans, whoever sheds man's blood, it's man is going to take that blood as well. You see what I'm saying? Shalom, Sister Hannah. Shalom, Sister Kim. So I'm not telling you that he didn't allow it later on or instructed. Let me say that. Let me say it that way. He instructed which animals you can partake in as far as food is concerned, but this wasn't the main diet of of Israel. This wasn't Israel's main diet. This wasn't even the nation's main diet. It would usually, when they would kill an animal and eat, it would be special occasions or something else. When there was a famine um, during the time of Joseph. When there was a famine during the time of Joseph, guess what they did? They sold their animals so they can get uh, wheat and corn. They sold their animals so they can get food. You understand? I want you guys to understand this mindset. They sold their animals to get food. That means that the majority of their food had nothing to do with animals. When Israel went on the land, they were not eating bulls and oxen and all of that stuff. There were even deer. There were even deer on their land that they would partake in as well. It wasn't like this wasn't the everyday diet like it is in America. American diet is everything has meat. That's not the diet of the people of the scripture. All right. So we don't see no instruction on eating meat. We see no instruction on eating animals, but we do see instruction on him eating clean bugs. And he tells us an instruction on not to partake in the blood of animals and not to shed the blood of men. And that if an animal kills a person, that animal should be killed as well. So we're getting some instruction on Yah understanding how not only how sinful but how aggressive creation is becoming. Because now there's probably going to be storms, there's probably going to be hectic weather. We saw that in Genesis chapter 8. So now he's telling you that the animals that shed blood, they have to die. So now he's indicating to Noah, guess what? The animals are going to be aggressive. Of course, he needs to be instructed that he was just in the ark with aggressive animals or with animals that were not aggressive. So Yah is giving him insight. These animals are going to be aggressive. If animals kill a person, then they need to be killed. If a man kills another man, they need to be killed. We need to make sure that we maintain justice. You know, absolutely, Sister Kim. The way that animals are treated now is insane. It's insane. It's insane to just eat it willy nilly. I would say willy nilly. All right, let's continue to look at this. Verse 7, it says, and you shall be fruitful, multiply, bring forth an abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. And you know, it's interesting how he's mentioning being in control of the animals, and he's saying, be fruitful and multiply. He's not just talking, he has to take care of his dominion. He controls, he rules over the earth. So he has to allow the earth to replenish. How is he going to allow the earth to replenish eating all the animals? The earth was already bearing fruit because it was already bearing leaves last year in the 7th month. So in the first year, in the spring, it's already bearing fruit. It's already most likely bearing fruit for him and everyone else. Let's continue. Verse 8. Elohim spoke to Noah and to his sons, saying, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your children after you. This is a very important statement here, because we're going to see where the covenant of Yah was with. I will establish a covenant with you and with your children after you. Every living creature that is with you, fowl, cattle, every beast of the earth with you, all that go out into of the ark, to every beast of the earth, I will establish my covenant with you. He says, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. So this is him saying no more flood. He didn't say no more destruction. He said no more flood. Neither shall there anymore be a flood to destroy the earth. So he's talking very specifically about how he destroyed the earth. He's not going to destroy the earth this same way. Elohim said, this token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature with you for a perpetual covenant. Now, why would he need to promise them and give them a sign that he will not destroy them with a flood? In my analysis, it's because when it starts to storm, I want you guys to understand this aspect. They have never seen a storm before. They have never seen a storm before. And so now, when it starts to storm and rain and rivers are overflowing, the ones that survived are kind of going to be like, are you doing it again? There's going to be some worry. They've never seen rainstorms before, monsoons. They've never seen floods before. So the rainbow that appears sometimes before rain and after rain was supposed to be an indicator that he wasn't going to destroy the earth and that this rain wasn't for the purpose of destroying anymore. So now he's taking the rain from the purpose of destroying, and now the rain is actually going to help the earth produce grass. There's even the science behind lightning storms where the electricity gives the rain nutrients for the earth. This was the first appearance of the rainbow. Yes. Walking his ways. Was this the first appearance of the rainbow? Yes. This is the first appearance of the rainbow. You know why? Because the mist will come up from the ground and water the ground, according to Genesis 2. So the rain coming from the sky now, the rainbow being seen in the sky, from the moisture coming down from the sky, was supposed to remind you, like, even though water may come, it's not going to flood the earth. But not just flood the earth, the mercy of the ark surviving is also a partaker of this covenant. Like, wow, like I survived, I am preserved, Yah wants me to live, right? These are all the ideas that come from the rainbow. Yah wants to preserve you, just like he did with the ark. He wants you to live, just like he did with the people of the ark. And he wants to provide for you, which is what we're about to see with the covenant that he makes with Noah and his children after him. He says, I do set a bow in the cloud, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and the earth. It shall come to pass that when I bring a cloud over the earth, you see that? They never seen no clouds over the earth until this point. So when I bring the cloud over the earth, that the rainbow shall be seen in the cloud. I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all the flesh. And the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. The bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, and I may remember the everlasting covenant between Elohim and every creature. And Elohim said to Noah, this is the token of the covenant which I will have established between me and all flesh upon the earth. See that? So this is me, you, all the animals. This is a little bit different than the one I'm about to make with you and your human children. All right. There's a question that says, the DARPA create a fake rainbow? So rainbows is created from light and water, light and mist, right? So it's not necessarily like Yah's, like, think about this, right? Light, rainbows are created, or rainbow colors are created when light shines through water. Now, it didn't have to be that way. Light could have shined through water, and on the other side, it would have probably just been light. But Yah has declared that when light shines through water, it's going to create a rainbow. So Yah is making the rainbow happen scientifically now. I know many people know science, so when they do scientific experiments, a lot of times they'll take a glass of water, put it by the window, you'll see a reflection of a rainbow on the table. This is only because Yah said so. Yah, before Yah said so, that science didn't exist. So that science only exists because Yah said it will exist. You see? So this is how we ought to view this particular instance. Yah's commanding it to create a rainbow when light goes through water. So man can replicate the science of it because Yah put it in nature. He put this process in nature. So man can try to create a fake one, but it's not what Yah has done. I think people can clearly do that, right? So as we continue, we see now Yah created the formula. Absolutely, Miss Q. It's just like water. I was telling my children, we were having studies, and I was telling them about H2O. And just like we have hydrogen, we make hydrogen bombs from hydrogen. We have oxygen. We make hydrogen peroxide from hydrogen peroxide, right? H2O2. You have the ingredients for water, and you cannot make water appear. You cannot put elements that you cannot put the ingredients that creates water and make water. You can't do it because man cannot make the increase. You can only replicate what happens. You cannot create the actual thing that happens, right? So you can make fake clouds, you can make fake rain and stuff like that, but you cannot create it the way Yah makes it. It's just like you can make fake fruit and fake vegetables, but you cannot make it the way Yah makes it. There's always going to be a difference between the way Yah does it and the way you do it. It's just like when Moses went to Pharaoh, and they were going back and forth with the magicians. They were going back and forth, and whatever they did when Yah did it, it wasn't the same. Yah brought out the snake. I believe it was probably a king snake, what people call a king snake now. And then they brought out their little vipers or their little poisonous snakes. A king snake is not a poisonous snake, but it eats poisonous snakes. So it's crazy how a non-poisonous snake can consume poisonous snakes. It was interesting how they would go back and forth, but Yah, the way Yah made a snake, ate up the other snakes. So it's like the way Yah does things can never be replicated exactly that way, but it can be attempted to be copied, or it can be distorted, I would say. But let's go back to this statement here. I will establish my covenant with you and your children after you. I need you guys to keep this in mind. Mrs. Q, is a law given to the elements, and so nature obeys. Absolutely. Me and my kids were reading Psalms, and it was talking about how the oceans roar and clap in glory to Yah. And I was trying to explain to them how when nature goes through its process the way it was created to, that's a glorification of Yah's work. That's a glorification of Yah's power, that everything is functioning the way it was created to. So it's interesting when Yah can establish what the elements perform. He can make the waters calm forever, but he didn't make it that way. He made it to roar. He made it to recede, and he made it to the tide, and he made the waves. He made it to do what it does. You see what I'm saying? So when he says that the rainbow is going to be there, he's making the light and the water interact and produce this thing naturally. He's creating this natural occurrence. Just like in Genesis 8, he created autumn. He created summer and he created autumn after the flood as well. That didn't exist before. It was a paradise, probably perfect weather, perfect sunshine, perfect breeze. It probably was, I think the word Eden actually means pleasure. It was like a pleasurable paradise, right? After the flood, now we got to get cold. Now we can't even grow food at a certain time of the year. Now things are being hectic. Things are getting hectic. But Yah is putting this into nature. He's establishing the function of all those things in nature after the flood. It's a brand new nature, guys. Nature is being created or established much different than it did before. So we're looking at a brand new creation, brand new nature. Okay? So it's very important for us to see that there's a clear difference between before the flood and after the flood. Let's look at this, right? I want you guys to remember this. I will make my covenant with you and your children after you. Now let's go down here. Noah, the sons of Noah, went forth out of the ark, Ham, Shem, Japheth. Now Ham was the father of Canaan. I want you to understand this. If Yah made a covenant with Noah and his children after him, who did Yah make a covenant with? He made a covenant with Ham. He made a covenant with Shem. He made a covenant with Japheth. And he made a covenant with their children, Canaan. It says here, these are three sons of Noah, and of them, the whole earth overspread. But Yah just said, I'm going to make a covenant. I'm going to make a covenant with you. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm going to make a covenant with you and your children after you. Verse 9. With you and your children. Remember, Noah, Yah is talking. Let me be very specific because I want what I'm saying to be no wiggle room outside of this. And if there is, please show me. Elohim spoke to Noah and to his sons, right? Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And he says, I'm going to make a covenant with you. You is Noah and his sons. And then he says, and with your children after you. That means all the other children that Noah has, all the children that his sons have. So now it says that Noah's children are the progenitors of every single nation that exists on the earth. So who is the covenant with? Who's the covenant with, guys? Let me ask if you guys understand. Who's the covenant with? What do you guys think? You guys know? The children of Noah and his sons is everyone that's on the earth. So the covenant is with everyone on the earth. Now, what happens after this, we're going to see that there's some changes that happen after this, but the understanding that the original covenant was to Noah and everyone that came out of Noah and his sons. That is every existing nation that lives. Now, of course, there's a condition. The condition is righteousness. Righteousness has always been the condition. Matter of fact, the flood is there. The survivors of the flood are there because the condition to be on the ark was righteousness. And those who were not were destroyed. Those who were lived. So now we have a covenant made with Noah and his sons and their children after them. And their children made everyone on the earth. Noah began to have a vineyard. He drank wine. Now remember, it says Ham is the father of Cain. The reason why it says Ham is the father of Canaan at this time is because Canaan was already born, guys. Canaan was already born. Okay? So we're getting a little bit of insight on how Canaan was raised by his father. Noah had a vineyard, and he drank wine, and he got drunk, and he was naked in his tent. You see, Noah, was uncovered in his tent. It is talking about Noah being uncovered. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father. Why? Because he was uncovered in his tent. Many people look at that and they say that he slept with his mother. No. Noah was naked in his tent. Well, Canaan probably was not necessarily, he may not have been on the ark. He may have probably been born on the ark. We don't even know which, if their wives were pregnant on the ark. And on top of that, we don't even know the time frame of this particular moment here when he made the vineyard. But by the time he had the vineyard, he had Canaan. By the time he had the vineyard, he had Canaan. And they kept mentioning this for a reason, because this is supposed to give us indication as to why Canaan was rebellious in the way that they were, or the Canaanites, I would say. But he saw his father was uncovered in his tent, and so he saw his father's nakedness and told his two brothers that was outside. Now Shem and Japheth took a garment and they laid it on both their shoulders, went backwards, and covered the nakedness of their father. Right? Now, many people take this phrase because in Leviticus, it uses this phrase to refer to uncovering the nakedness of unlawfully of a woman that belongs to either your father or your sister or whatever it is. I don't believe Canaan was on the ark, but he was born by the time Noah had a vineyard. It takes a while to have, not only have a vineyard, but to bear fruit from a vineyard, to have wine. That's time. That's a lot of time. And I can imagine his sons are starting to have children already at this point. So when they went backwards, they did not see their father's nakedness, or they did not see their father naked. Noah woke up from his wine and knew what his younger, or understood what his younger son. It wasn't that he just magically knew. Okay, he probably was told. He probably found out. He understood and he knew what his son did, and so he cursed Canaan. And many people say, is he cursing Canaan because he saw his father naked? I don't believe that this is what Noah was inspired to do. I believe that Noah was cursing Canaan because because think about this, because Ham was raising Canaan wickedly. So it wasn't that he was cursing Canaan before he was wicked. Many people don't think he existed at this time. Many people think that he was cursing Canaan in the future. That doesn't make sense. He was cursing Canaan because of how Ham was raising him. Ham was you could tell Ham was pretty disrespectful as far as I would say obeying his father or respecting his father. Uh, so when you incorporate how he was respecting his father, um, is it true that he stole Adam's clothes? Nobody stole nobody's nobody stole nothing from Adam. I'm not sure if that story is somewhere, whatever book that came from. 323 says, so Canaan lusted after his grandfather as a boy. What do you mean? What do you mean lusted? There's nothing about lust in any of these verses. This is what I'm trying to say. Nobody lusted after nobody. Canaan is being cursed because of how his father was raising him. He was raising him to be disrespectful. I figured you was talking about that, Mr. Q. Get that fireplace ready. Keep warm. Toss that in there. Um, no, Canaan didn't lust after nobody. Canaan just became a disrespectful person, just like Ham was disrespectful. This is all the. This is what happens when you. As we continue, we're going to see that this is the trend. The children have a choice to do what their fathers did or to do opposite of what their fathers did. Canaan was rebellious, just like Ham was rebellious. So Canaan was cursed to serve because Yah saw that Canaan's lineage was going to be rebellious. And that's what we see. The Canaanites are being rebellious. The Canaanites are rebellious because their father was rebellious. Canaan was rebellious because Ham was rebellious. You see what I'm saying? So it says, he said, blessed be Yahuwah the Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Now, the interesting thing is that Shem himself was not served by the Canaanites, right? So Shem wasn't served by the Canaanites. When Abraham moved to Canaan, the Canaanites didn't necessarily serve him, but they blessed him. It was Israel that was not necessarily served by the Canaanites because they drove them out or drove most of them out, but that the land, Canaan, the land was theirs. The land of Canaan served Israel as far as providing food and shelter and home. The land of Canaan was belonging to the children of Shem. Shem never was served by Canaanites or anything like that. It was the land of Canaan that served the children of Shem, which was Israel. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth. So now we have Japheth being blessed. And then when you look at the European countries, you see the European countries is pretty large, especially over towards Russia. He shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Now, if Jillian G is still here, I definitely would appreciate if you mention real quick the statement that you made pertaining to this, so I can remember. Because I'm looking at this and I'm trying to not see what I saw before, but I'm trying to incorporate what you said also. So it says, blessed is Yahuwah, the Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant, right? Elohim shall enlarge Japheth. He shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Meaning, like, Japheth's children are going to live in the dwelling places that Shem lived, and Canaan will also serve Japheth as well. Now, I don't see that happening in Scripture where the Canaanites served Japhethites, but I do see the children of Japheth living in the dwelling places of Shem in our present day, and the land of Canaan serving the Japhethites. So we're going to talk about this more. We're going to come back to this statement here because I see here that Noah is prophesying about the future, starting from Canaan. Starting from Canaan being cursed, Shem being blessed and served by Canaan, and then Japheth, in the final statement that he makes in his prophecy, living where Shem was supposed to live and being served by Canaan. So we're going to look at that also. Noah lived after the flood 350 years, and all the days of Noah was 950 years, and he died. 950 years. All right. Kim says, it's as though their DNA got a mark of rebellion being passed down like a generational curse. Absolutely. It's the same thing that we get. Let me see if I could sharing this. So it's the same passing down that we do with our children. Our children, we pass our sinful nature down to our children. All right. So it's very important that we understand. Give me 1 second. Just trying to pop this back in. There we go. It's very important that we understand not generational curses, but the sinful nature, how the sinful nature is passed down. The sinful nature is passed down naturally. Whatever's in us is going to be given to them. Propensities in us will be propensities in them. Now, it may not overtake them the way that it overtakes us because of our practices, but they will have to choose to go against I would say the cravings or the temptations of their fathers. Now, they don't have to do it. Just like Cain, Yah told Cain he didn't have to do it. He did not have to do it. He did not have to sin, that he could rule over sin. But he chose to do the opposite. Now, this choice Yah is given to all of them. He's given to all the children of Yah, all the sons and daughters of Yah. But they will have to choose. Ham doesn't have to necessarily stay rebellious because he was rebellious. Unfortunately, there's a possibility that Ham could have repented, but his children will still face the consequences. This also happens throughout history, where people could be righteous and then they live unrighteously, and then their children reap the consequences from those actions. Look at David's children. David's children were very murderous. They watched this. They watched this fall. Remember, Solomon was the last child, so he had wives and children already. And his children finding out what he did to Uriah for Bathsheba, how do you think that affected him? Not only did he do that, guys, David, when he came back, he took Michal back. And I want you to think about this. Michal was married with children. And he said, nah, you're mine. Now, you're right. Michal never had children with David. She had children before David came back. Because he was chilling in Hebron for I think he was in Hebron for I'm not sure if it was 13 years or I think it was more than that. I think it was 30 years. I'm not sure. He lived in Hebron for 30 years, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was a lot of years. He had wives and children when he came back from running away from Saul. But think about what his children are seeing. Think about the learning experiences of your children. Matter of fact, you see Abraham, right? Abraham lived all the way to the time of Jacob was alive. He lived around the time Jacob was 16 years old. Now, when he lived, what did he do? He said that Sarah was his sister, right? When Isaac went to Gerar, what did he do? Isaac said Sarah was his sister. I'm sorry, said Rebecca was his sister. Isaac did the same thing that Abraham did out of fear. You see what I'm saying? I don't think that we understand how much our children learn from our bad habits, and then it develops into a worse habit. It doesn't mean that they're stuck that way. It just means that they have to now fight not only the influence that's in their bodies, but also the influence of how they're watching their family or what they're watching their family teach. You know, Sister Virginia, I see that you put the word last. I'm not too sure what you mean. Clayton G. Looking at Genesis 9:27, again, Japherh is not enlarged. The word used was patha. Research says enticed or persuaded. Enlarged is 3 dwells in the tents. Okay, and Yahuwah, you said, and Yahuwah will dwell in the tents of Shem. But then it says, but wasn't Sarah. Okay, let's see. No, Sarah was Abraham's father's daughter. That's what Abraham said himself. Yahuwah of Elohim. Elohim shall enlarge Japheth. And Yahuwah will dwell. I see what you're saying, brother. Now, the enlarge is H6601. And that word means to open. It means to enter in a positive or negative way. It means space. I'm not sure. The idea of persuade, it comes from the idea of to open deceptively, but not necessarily negating something actually opening. So I can understand, but it doesn't necessarily, it's kind of like a, not a stretch, but like a kind of like making the word smaller than what it's saying. But I see what you're saying, and I still am considering that angle as well. Um, Sarah, his cousin. Oh, you see, Sarah was Abraham's cousin because Sarah was Terah's niece. That book of Jasher, boy. That book of Jasher does a number. Let's look at what it says. We're going to fast forward to Abraham, right? It says Terah. It doesn't talk about Terah's. Now it says Terah's niece, right? This is what Jasher says. I'm not sure if it mentions Terah's brother at all, but it does mention Terah's sons and daughters, right? So it says here, Nahor lived after he begot Terah 119 years, and Nahor begot sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years and begot Abraham. Nahor, that's his son, he named his son after his father, and Haran. These are the generations of Terah. And it says here, Abraham, Nahor, Haran. Haran begat Lot. Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, Ur of the Chaldees. It says here, Abraham and Nahor took wives. The name of Abraham's wife was Sarai. The name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran. Now, it doesn't say Sarai was the daughter of any of his brothers, but it says that um, uh, that his brother's wife was the daughter of his other brother, Haran. The father of Milcah, the father of Iscah. So these are his brother's other daughters. I'm sorry. Yeah, other kids, right? It says Sarah was barren, had no child. It says, so Terah took Abraham his son, Lot, the son of Haran, and then it says Sarai, his daughter in law, right? So there's no indication that that's Terah's niece or Abraham's niece. There's no indication that Sarah belonged to his brothers because it said that Nahor had these daughters and Haran had Lot. You see what I'm saying? So it's not saying anything that Sarai is connected to Abraham's brothers. Later on, it does say, it continues to say Sarah, his wife, Lot, his brother's son, until we get to until it gets to Genesis chapter 12 when he goes to Egypt, I believe. And it says here, the Pharaoh called Abraham and said, "What is this that you have done? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife?" He says, "Why did you say she is my sister?" Now, I believe there's a word for niece. Why did you tell me? Why did you tell me she was your sister? Right? And so let's get the meaning of it. He says, "Now therefore, behold, your wife, take her and go your way." Pharaoh commanded him, and he sent them away. His wife. Okay, this is when he's talking to. Is it this one or is it the second one? I'm trying to remember. Oh, right, Sister Virginia, absolutely. Uh, the last child. I see what you're saying, and I see what you're saying, Clayton G. I'm gonna look at it again right after I clarify this real quick. Um, Now he was. I think he was talking. He was discussing with Abimelech this situation, and he was like, "Let me see." Uh, Abraham told him, "Say you are my sister." Let me see if I can find this somewhere else. Oh, okay, it happened later on. Okay, so Abraham did this twice, my friend. Just to give everybody insight, Abraham did this twice. All right, so in Genesis chapter 20, Abimelech said to Abraham, "What did you see that you've done this thing? Like, why did you lie to us? Right? Why did you lie to me? You told me that this was your sister, right? She's my sister." And it says she even herself said that he is her sister, right? So both Abraham and Sarah are saying he is her sister. Look, said this is what Sarah said. Sarah said, "He is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and the innocency of my hands, I have done this." So Yah tells him, restore him, give him back his wife. So then when he comes to Abraham and he says, "Why did you do this?" Abraham said, "Because I thought that the fear of Elohim was not here, but it was." And he says, "So yet, indeed, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father." So this is more than just she's my sister. She's the daughter of my father. but not the daughter of my mother. He's being very specific. And she became my wife. You would have to change all of these statements to make it that she was Terah's or Abraham's niece. She is the daughter of his father, but not the daughter of his mother. She became his wife. Abimelech said that she said, "He is my brother." And Abraham was trying to not justify, but he was trying to say, "Yeah, technically." That's why he says, "Indeed, indeed, like technically she is. Technically, I am her brother because she's my father's daughter, but she's not the daughter of my mother." You see what I'm saying? So it's like technically this is true. So Jasher changes that dynamic and says they're not even brother and sister. The word brother and sister don't, there's no connection. That is Abraham's niece, his brother's daughter. And this is where you get another inconsistency. Abraham was afraid. So this is what they did, not only with Abimelech and not only in Egypt, as we saw in Genesis chapter 12 and chapter 20, they did this. But Abraham confessed, saying that every nation they went to, they said this. Every city they went to, they said this because they were afraid, because he was afraid that they were going to kill him. And so his wife agreed, like, okay, yeah, I'll say, instead of saying I'm your wife, I'll say I'm your brother. Um, it's interesting because they're not lying, but they're deceiving. They're not lying, but they're deceiving. When somebody asks, is this your wife? And you say, this is my sister, you are evading the question in order to make them think another way. And so this is what his fear that Yah wasn't gonna protect them from their hand is what the Yah was allowing to happen so he can show him that Yah was gonna protect them. Yes, Lazarus. Yes, he was in fear for his life, and that's why he said that. The book of Jasher is that's just another inconsistency, but the forcing, right? You're gonna have to look at all the words and brother and see, oh, he said this is my brother. He called Lot his brother once. Lot being his brother, but not really his brother, that was his brother's son. So therefore, it works like this everywhere. No, it doesn't. Not when he's saying technically she is my sister because she's my father's daughter, but not my mother's daughter. That's a very specific statement. Um, and then they say, well, he meant my father's granddaughter. Like, no, too much hoops. Too much hoops to change what the words say. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted you to have that in your mind as you're reading it, and you're just gonna I don't think you're gonna make it through, but as you continue, you're just gonna be like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And it's gonna be like a story using their names, right? When I read it, it was like I read it in interest of it. They also said that it supported the lunar Sabbath, and I found some information in the book of Jasher that actually disproves the lunar Sabbath. But anyway, I have that in my lunar Sabbath study. It's so long, I don't think I'm gonna do it again. But yeah, check it out if you need to. Praise Yah. We just did doubleheader today. I pray that this is a blessing to you guys. I hope that as we investigate, we kind of see more of the details. Let me go back to what you said, Brother Jillian, real quick, because I think that that's an interesting perspective of it. And please, I have to put in the chat a certain way so that way I can see it. Wintertime is coming, absolutely, absolutely. Let's go to the prophecy, right? So I like that you mentioned. Jillian said, um, which is absolutely true. Jillian said that it becomes a curse to, um, and so I'm not sure if you can come to the on the platform so we could talk real quick. Let me see if I could put. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Jillian, if you could come on there so we could have a dialogue instead. We don't have to come to a conclusion, but just so that way I could understand what you mean by it'll be a punishment for Shem. Because I do see that this is a prophecy moving into the future. Um, and there absolutely is a punishment for Shem, even with the promise to Abraham, there was a punishment for the Israelites about being enslaved in Egypt in the future. So I don't have an issue with it being a punishment for Shem because the Shemites did commit idolatry. That's the reason why Abraham was separated from the family of Shem. You understand? So I want to see why that's an issue that Shem it will be a curse for Shem also because I believe it is a curse for Shem. I'm looking for the statement that you made because I think it was a really good point. Okay. If you say the link is pinned, is not in there, is right before your statement. Let me try to put it back in there. It may not be letting me. Do you see it now? So it says here, if you say that Japheth will dwell in the tents of Shem, then the prophecy of Noah would be a curse to Shem as well. I agree, and I believe that they were cursed as well. Well, I could explain my point here. So you don't see it? Oh man. All right. So let me just explain my point and then but I do like what you're saying, right? So let me I want to point out what you're saying so that way it can be understood. So what's being said is that it says Elohim shall enlarge Japheth. Now I know this word can roughly mean, you know, the word enlarged is claimed to mean seduce, to give Japheth an automatically negative. I don't think that they deserve to have an automatic negative connotation, but it says here entice, deceive, persuade, um, allure, and then it means enlarged, entice, to flatter, persuade. Now, so the persuading, the enticing to enter, right? A violent man entices his neighbor and leads him into the way. Enlarge, Elohim shall enlarge. So the idea of enticement, to me, it correlates with the fact that Japheth lives in the tents of Shem, because I believe Japheth did use deception to live in the tents of Shem. Don't like so. What we're discussing is that because Japheth's son which we're going to read in the next chapter, is Ashkenaz. And the Ashkenaz dwells in the tents of Shem. I think that what we're thinking is that he's blessing them in verse 27 just because he blessed them in verse 26. But when we're looking at verse 27, it says Elohim have enlarged, let's just say seduce, and it says, and Elohim shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. But he said that already. Blessed be Yahuwah Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Elohim shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. To me, that's redundance. It's a redundant statement, right? I don't believe that he's being redundant. I believe now he's talking about a whole nother son. He talks about Ham's son here, then he talks about Shem being served by Ham's son, and then he talks about Japheth living in the tents of Shem being served by Ham's son. You see what I'm saying? He's addressing all three sons here. So him saying Elohim shall seduce Japheth, deceive Japheth, it doesn't make sense. And he will dwell, and Elohim shall dwell in the tents of Shem. So he's going to seduce Japheth. That doesn't make sense to me. But enlarge makes sense, especially considering where he was going to live. After having his own land, he is going to also live in the land of Shem, and Canaan will serve him. Now, Canaan serving him is not a blessing, that's a curse. Canaan is cursed. That's why Canaan is serving Shem. Canaan being served by Shem is a curse, still a curse on Canaan. It's not a curse on, but it's a curse on Canaan. But anyway, Elohim enlarging Japheth and allowing him to dwell in the tents of Shem is a future reference of, to me, I believe, Ashkenaz were in Canaan, and Canaan serving Ashkenaz, which is Japheth's son, which we see today. I see what you're saying. I don't believe that he necessarily was being redundant or saying that he's going to seduce Japheth or persuade Japheth, because all we see later on is Ashkenazi, and we see like more of a conflict with Japheth. You know what I mean? So I see what you're saying now. I don't see it in the text. And if you read simple, he's addressing Ham and his children, then he's addressing Shem, and then he's addressing Japheth. So I kind of, just to be consistent, that's how I see it. I don't negate what you're saying. I just probably need more proof. So I need you to show me more proof of this seduction of Japheth or persuading of Japheth in the scripture or in history, rather than Japheth actually enlarging his territory by taking over Canaan from Shem, because it was cursed. Shem's pit. Oh, let me give an insight. Right, that's how I took it. Also, Shem is going to dwell in those tents, not Elohim. But let me also show you why Shem was disconnected, because when we go to Genesis chapter 12, Yah tells Abraham to leave his country, leave his kindred. His kindred is the line of Shem, the Shemites. Leave his father's house, the house of Terah. So leave the house of Terah, leave the house of Shem, and to leave their house, their land. The land of the Shemites, the family line of the Shemites, and the father of the Shemites, which was also a Shemite. He's telling Abraham to completely sever and separate his nation. Look at his children. I will make you a great nation. So he's separating the nation of the Shemites with the nation that Abraham will produce. Why? Because the Shemites became idolaters. They were practicing idolatry. So yes, Shem did get his land taken away with him because they practiced idolatry. He had to separated Abraham from the Shemites and told him to go to the Hamite land, and then the curse came on the land of the Hamites, and then he gave that land of the Hamites to Israel. I see that the consistent history. But you know what I don't see? I don't see the issue with Japheth until our modern times. I see that coming to fruition of the people in Canaan being from Japheth or Ashkenaz. But we're going to talk about that. That's the next chapter. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're here. Um, it may not be scheduled. I'm trying to kind of put it in as much as I can because I don't want to kind of allow these chapters for us to get so far behind. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, like, share the video. You can support the ministry on 4LC.com, or you can go to subscribe also to 4LC for our Shabbat fellowship nights. As, you know, praise Yah for those. Praise Yah for these. I'm really thankful for that. Next time I'm gonna have my chat working properly. It's still messing up. I have to use like 3 different screens. So praise Yah. Clayton said the covenant with Abraham, which he is a Shemite himself, and within that covenant he dwelled within the midst of Israel. Within that covenant he dwelled in the midst of Israel. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I just don't see the correlation. Like it's not consistent. Like I could tell you why it is a curse for Shem, for Japheth to be enlarged and take over that territory, because we see later on the Shemites as a whole is being disconnected. The Shemites is a nation, the Hamites is a nation, and the Japhethites are a nation. But the Shemites were disconnected because of their idolatry, and Yah made another nation, like a specific nation, through Abraham. And that's, you know, Yah dwells with his people wherever they are. He was with his people in Egypt. So, but praise Yah. Thank you, Jillian, for even having this dialogue. And we could continue this, especially when we go into chapter 10. So we'll try to do that next week. Praise Yah. Yah bless you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please support these chapter studies. Praise Yah. Shalom.